This is George Dionne of Metal Express Radio, and I'm here with Jimmy Waldo of Alcatrazz and the 1994 supergroup Blackthorne. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How you doing, George?
I'm doing great. Recently, your 1994 project Blackthorne had two albums re-released as one album. It was Afterlife and Don't Kill the Thrill. They're available now streaming. You can pick up physical copies on Amazon. I don't think a lot of people caught Blackthorne the first time around. 1994, not big for your style of music. So if you want to get into how Blackthorne was born.
Well, basically, it started with Bob Kulick and myself. I met Bob when I lived in New York. Bob lived in New York. It was 1978, and the band New England was, we'd just been signed, and everything was, going well for us. And so I met Bob backstage at a Kiss show, actually, in New York at the Beacon Theater. And we talked, and we really hit it off. And we decided, we got to get together someday and do something. So I said, okay, sure, I'd love to. So we stayed in touch. I'd see him around. I lived in New York, so I'd see him around the city and clubs and stuff. And we always talk about music and stuff. And then I moved to L.A. He moved to L.A. I didn't know that. So the next time I tried to get in touch with him, he was in L.A. So we got together and we said, man, we got to do it. We got to do this, So we decided to put a band together. And Graham Bonnet was in Australia. Graham had been calling me, asking me if I had any projects that he could get into that he could get him back to the United States. He really wanted to come back to the States. So Graham came over. We got a deal with Polydor in Japan, and which gave us enough money to do a record and more money than they give you nowadays. And so basically that's how it happened. And I had played with Frankie Banelli and Quiet Riot and Chuck Wright. I'd played with in that as well. So it was kind of like, oh, man, these are the guys. So called up Frankie and Chuck and got them involved, and we rehearsed the material and went in the studio and recorded.
Yeah, the group, on paper, the group is like 6 degrees of separation between all your bands. I mean, you and Graham and Alcatrazz, and
that's it, exactly.
You, Chuck and Frankie and Quiet Riot, and then Chuck was in Impellitteri with Graham Bonnet, and Bob was in Wasp with Frankie. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So when the album came out, what was kind of like the plan for distribution and getting it out there? 1994 was mainly like the height of grunge, and you guys were still doing solid rock and roll.
Right. We had the deal in Japan, and we had no deal in the United States. About halfway through the album, we realized that we were going to get killed. The grunge thing just killed us. So when the record was finished, it came out in Japan immediately, and then we couldn't get a deal in the United States at all. So it was really depressing, because we wanted to play here and tour here and stuff. We could not do that. So Bob and I and Graham went to Japan as a promotional thing for the record, and we were received really well. The Japanese loved us, and it was all good. We did some like acoustic kind of shows and stuff and appearances and things. Well, great. And then when the record was out in Japan, it just didn't sell at all, even in Japan. So, and we thought, wow, we're going to do well in Japan. Didn't do well, didn't do anything. So it wasn't doing anything in the United States because it wasn't even out.
Right.
And so it came out on Music for Nations. I believe it was actually in England at the time, but it didn't do anything over there either. Bob and Graham went over for press, did press, nothing. We just, wrong place at the right time, I guess. Like I said, the grunge thing obviously killed us. So I really think that's what happened. And there were a lot of great bands out, the grunge bands. I like some of Nirvana stuff. Some of it I didn't like. Some of it I just thought was killer. So it wasn't like I didn't like that music, but it just wasn't what we were doing at all. And so we didn't do anything. We played some shows. We played a couple shows in California. We played a show in Phoenix. Nothing. The attendance was really bad. And the agency that was booking us just said they can't book us. Sorry, can't help you. So we couldn't even get a small club booking agency to book us.
Wow.
So that was it was nuts.
So you originally released in some way, shape, or form in some locations. You released Afterlife, but Don't Kill the Thrill was never really released until years and years later. Did you guys record all of this at one time for 2 albums, or
no?
Okay.
No. We had been doing demos at my home studio, and Bob and I were kind of always writing and doing stuff. So some of these songs we did as demos and just never made the album. We probably cut, 15, 20 demos, but for the album. But it didn't, a lot of them we just, we can only put so many songs on an album, so we just put what's on Afterlife now was the first record. Some of those songs were cut as demos at the same time. Some of them were cut much later because we kept writing. The Blackthorne thing, we got dropped from Polydor. Graham left. We got an advance to do the next record. We had the money. Graham got his money, and then he quit.
Oh, geez.
And that really screwed us up. So at that point, we decided we're not going to go on with this. Real bad taste in everybody's mouth about that. So we got off Polydor, and we got another deal on another label in Japan. And we got very, very small budget to add to what little money we had. And we made another record with David Glenn Isley, and that was called Murderer's Row. And that was sort of Bob and I, and Jay Shellen played drums, Chuck played bass, Frankie was on tour, couldn't play drums. So we did that record, and that record didn't do anything either. Our timing was still bad, so that record didn't do anything. So all these Blackthorne demos were cut and were in my garage. I had tapes for days in my garage. I saved everything. So our manager, our current manager, Giles Lavery, who managed Alcatrazz, and was a big Blackthorne fan. So he was in my garage. He was staying at my house. I was about ready to, we were working on the Alcatrazz record at that time. And he was staying in my house in L.A., and we were in the garage, and he's like, what's in this box? And I said, just a bunch of tapes. And Giles started looking in the box, and he goes, man, I'm seeing all these song titles that say Blackthorne on them. And so sure enough, he started digging around in there and found all this stuff, demos of songs that were on Afterlife and demos that had never been cut and all that stuff. So he started putting that all together. And it was really him that got it all together and put it all together. I had said that they were my tapes, but so that's where it all came from.
Well, it's not all for naught. I mean, obviously this Blackthorne has gotten a life of its own years later. I mean, there's certainly interest in it. I took another look at it. I had heard it before, but even these demos that you have, they're pretty high quality demos.
Yeah, some of them we cut on 16-track, half-inch Fostex 16-track, so pretty good quality. And even though they may have been a drum machine, we took care, and it was a 100-watt Marshall stack. I mean, Bob, we had this Marshall stack in my basement, and so when we cut a demo, we went for it, except for drums. So we tried to make good sounding demos, even though they were just kind of songwriting and songwriting demos. But we did. We went for it. So
I saw
most of them, were good quality.
I saw that you had a promotional video out there of you and Bob and Graham doing like an acoustic performance, and you kind of look back at the past and you think, you look at kind of the weird things and kind of the time that it was, and I'm watching the video and you're there playing the keys and there's no keyboard in the song, but I thought that was a nice touch in the video.
Right, and there actually was keyboards in the song. They were just not turned up in the mix.
Right.
Bob and I disagreed on that. And when we were mixing, we co-produced the record. When we were mixing, Bob was all about the guitar. And we'd argue about it. And the engineer was on Bob's side, in Bob's pocket, so to speak. So I was outnumbered. And some of the keyboards, you just, you don't even hear them. I mean, they were there, but they're almost non-existent. But some songs they were, some songs they weren't, but that's the way it went. And I can't argue with people about stuff like that in the studio. It's like we argued about it and we're wasting time. Let's move on.
Exactly.
Let's get this thing mixed and move on.
So like you said, Blackthorne eventually morphed into Murderer's Row. Are there any reissues of that first Murderer's Row album?
Yeah, there was. Some years ago, there was a reissue of that, and I'm trying to think. I can't think who did that. Let me see here. I'm online, so I'm trying to see. I was gonna search it myself. Murderers.
Well, I'm sure we can find it on Amazon somewhere. At least used copies.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's there somewhere. I know. Actually, I bought some time ago. So a friend, I didn't have any, and a friend of mine we said, "Oh man, I heard that on the radio." Well, I don't know where he would have heard it on the radio, but he did. And he said, "Oh, I gotta have that. Where do I get it?" So I bought him one, and I bought it on Amazon. So I know it is up there. I can't even find it now myself, though. I'm looking. I thought for sure I'd find it. Wow, that's weird. Well, I know it is available.
Maybe someone will go through your garage and find it.
Yeah. Well, not now. My wife and I, we cleaned out the garage. That's what we were doing. That's how Giles ended up seeing all this stuff. We were moving from LA to Chicago. Yeah. So I was boxing up stuff and getting rid of a lot of stuff. And then Giles was in there going, "Well, what's this? What's that? What's this? What's that?" And he found it. I mean, I knew where the box was, but I just wasn't paying attention to it. And sure enough, there it was.
So your current gig, long since Blackthorne and Murderer's Row, is Alcatrazz. You guys have a new album on the way. It's called 5. I'd actually spoken briefly with Doogie White about this. Sword of Deliverance came out. Fantastic song. How far are you guys in the recording process at this point?
The recording process of what?
Of the album. How far are you in the recording process of 5?
Oh, the album's coming out October 15th. We finished that about 2 months ago.
Oh, okay.
So, Sword of Deliverance came out, and Turn of the Wheel. I know we had a second video, and there will be a single. I think they're just going to make a lyric video with that one. And then the album release date is October 15th.
Excellent.
So it will be out.
I was talking to Doogie on how his career kind of follows kind of where Graham Bonnet has been. Wherever Graham Bonnet has been, usually Doogie White follows. He had mentioned that Graham said he just didn't really want to do Alcatrazz. It just wasn't. He just didn't have the heart for it anymore. Is there some validity to that?
Yes, Graham really does not like this kind of music. That's what he's known for, but he doesn't like it. He resists it. And it's always a problem. And live, he struggles with it. He doesn't like singing it. It's just not something that he ever really liked. And it was always a problem for us. So it just got to the point where he wanted to do his own band with other people, which were actually in the Graham Bonnet band. When I first got together with Graham this time, it was the Graham Bonnet band, and there were different people, and he wanted to go back to doing that again. So that's what he told everybody. That I found out later, but anyway. So yeah, he really wasn't into it anymore. So that is true. He was not into it and just left.
All right. Hey, it happens. It's happened before in that particular band and other bands that he's been in, but it happens. Do you have any other projects you're working on, Jimmy?
I just finished. We just finished the mixes for another thing that I did. I'd written songs for years with a friend of mine, and we always were frustrated those songs never really saw the light of day. And we did put out a CD a couple of years ago just of all those demos of those songs. And they're different singers on the song, different players. But we just put it out. The label in Australia put it out as just a retrospective, like this is what all the songs that these guys wrote. There's some really good songs on there. So anyway, Stephen and I decided we wanted to do a real record, so we picked through those songs. We reworked some of those songs. We wrote some new songs, and we did a record with a singer, David Reese, who sang in Accept.
Oh, yeah.
And then we got guest guitar players to do solos. And Joe Satriani did a solo, Paul Gilbert, Bumblefoot, Tracy Guns from LA Guns. Every song has a different guitar solo on it by a different player, and it just turned out great. I mean, all these guys just played their ass off. Joe Stump, the Alcatrazz guitar player, played on one song, which he killed it. He did a great job. So the whole record was all guest soloists, and turned out really good. I didn't really know. I thought, and as we were doing it, I was like hoping that this didn't turn out to be just a hodgepodge. But these guys really, they sounded like they'd always been there in the song. The solos fit. It was just great. So, and some of the guys on that record, you with the songs that they played on, you wouldn't say, well, no, that doesn't sound like a song Tracy Guns would play on.
Right.
And yet Tracy Guns killed it. He just played his ass off, and just shows what a good player he is. Really great players can play almost anything. And Satriani killed it. They all did. All these guys just played their ass off. So it was a fun record, and that's being mixed now. It's almost done mixing, actually. So that'll come out. I'm not sure when that's going to come out. But, yeah, that's what I worked on. That was kind of overlapping with finishing the Alcatrazz record. So just finished that. I played on I played keyboards on a record in Germany for a German guy, producer that I know, and played all the keyboards on that. And right now, I'm just practicing and rehearsing for Alcatrazz upcoming dates in November.
Yeah, hopefully you're going to get out there.
Yeah, and they're all booked. I mean, we have a whole run booked in the UK, some really cool festivals and stuff, and So really looking forward to that, and I just hope that happens. I mean, as of today, you can go to the UK. I mean, there's no restrictions, and they are having music over there. So, but you know, the way this thing's going, it just changes daily. Every day I hear a different story on the news. So, I don't know. Just keep my fingers crossed.
Absolutely. What was the name of the project with all those guest guitar players on it?
It doesn't have a name yet. Because we didn't really want to call it. His name is Stephen Rosen. We didn't want to call it Rosen Waldo or Waldo Rosen. We just didn't want to do that. So we're kind of looking for a name, trying to come up with a name for it that would be appropriate. I mean, it's not a band; it's just a project. It's not going to tour or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. Unknown. Somebody asked me that today already. Somebody said, what are you going to call it? I was like, I don't know.
You just put a bunch of names in a hat and whatever comes out.
And it might come down to that. Yeah.
Well, Jimmy, that's all I got for you today. I appreciate you taking the time to speak with Metal Express Radio.
Oh, no problem. Thank you very much for the interest. I appreciate it.